Hi, you're watching the Film Whisperers on Bent TV, where two movie nerds talk about all things film through a contemporary lens. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Saj.
So, Saj, we have just recently spoken about movies that have aged very well and still hold up 10 years after their release date. So, back in 2011, which feels like an eternity ago. I know COVID seems to have added like a century onto all of our lives. I thought now maybe we could look at some movies that haven't aged well, or that we look back even just 10 years ago and think, gosh, like they wouldn't hold up today. Like if they were released today, like they just wouldn't cut it. Do you have something off the top of your head that you're like, yeah, this is like a clear example of this?
Look, I think I should ask you that question because I think you asked me that the last time. So, okay, no, I'm going to
say
okay. So if there was a film that hasn't held up, for the last 10 years, what would you say?
Well, one interesting one, which I feel like actually even at the time was a bit like, oh, like there were some people that were like, this is not necessarily the right thing, is The Help.
Yeah.
So like with Viola Davis, Octavia Spencer, Emma Stone.
Yeah. So it's a movie that white people watch and make themselves feel better about themselves. Yeah, I mean, isn't that?
So yeah, it's one of those ones where like it's based on a book, right?
Catherine Sucker. Yeah. Have you read the book?
No, I haven't.
I have. Yeah.
So actually, I'm curious to ask you. So basically, putting that aside for a second, the movie itself, like I think it actually probably grossed quite a bit, and like
it was huge.
Critics liked it, whatever.
I liked it in 2011.
Right. Interesting.
Didn't you?
I watched it at the time. I mean, I remember like thinking it was alright. Maybe because I kind of read a bit up afterwards and kind of sensed there was some people in some circles that were like, oh, this is platforming the white character's experience over the people of color or the African American people's experience, and it made it look like, oh, we just need this like, white woman to come in and save the day. That kind of tarnished it quite early on for me. But yeah, like you said, like for the most part, when people watch it at first, like, oh, what a great movie. Like it's, so I'm keen to ask you, like having read the book and the movie, what was your experience back then?
There were, I guess, a few things. So to have that many black actresses in a film that was Oscar nominated and did so well was a positive. And as much as it's problematic, it did launch Octavia Spencer's career.
Very true.
And she'd been acting for a while before that, but it was all in minor roles. And
basically, if we didn't have The Help, we would not have Ma. So just think about that for a second, because the world would be a very worse place if we did not have Ma.
So FYI, Ma is one of those obscure horror movies that I'm guessing Matt loves. But anyway, it's on Netflix. And so Octavia Spencer definitely brought a bit of stardom there. And same with Viola Davis. I mean, she had done film before, but I think this was her first starring role. There was quite a few problematic elements to it. Mainly, I remember when Octavia Spencer won her Oscar. Again, I think it was one of the first times in a really long time where a black actress had won Best Supporting Actress, and there were comparisons to, I think it was 1940 when the actress from Gone with the Wind won the first she was the first black woman to win the Best Actress Oscar, and it was for playing a maid. And here we are, nearly a century later, or 80 years later, and it's still an actress
that typecast roles.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in the book it is sort of this. It's got that same sort of white savior complex to it, and I remember a friend referred to it as white horse feminism as well.
Yeah. Like they're coming to save the day.
Correct. Yeah. Again, at the time I was really oblivious to this. I thought it was funny. I thought Emma Stone was I'm just keyword was great. The character of Minnie, played by Octavia Spencer, was great. Bryce Dallas Howard playing the evil, the Healy, the racist. I thought that was interesting. And I watch it now and I go, oh my God, this what the hell?
Well, interestingly, because part of the reason why we're talking about this is saying that like it wouldn't hold up today, but there have kind of been similar movies. I mean, they're separate stories, but like Green Book, which won Best Picture the other year, like
The Blind Side.
Oh, The Blind Side. So it's kind of like actually hasn't gone away. These kind of stories where it's about like, white person coming to save the day and helping out the person of color or the African American person. So yeah, even though we're talking about it, kind of not really like it hasn't aged well. Like it hasn't stopped, these big movies with similar kind of storylines from being made, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think. I think Help. I feel like to a certain extent, because Help was so big, it was one of those films that made it okay to tell stories like that. And maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I definitely think that it did have an impact on the way when we talk about people of color in film and how there always needs to be this white character in there that's there to
Do you think, and this is like absolutely speculative, I have no idea, but do you think that the success of a movie like that, even though the lens is like this kind of white savior lens, helped open the door for more diverse stories to come up. So like there actually have been some really great, black movies, for example.
So I guess it's a double-edged sword, yeah? Because at the end of the day, as I said, Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer, their careers just catapulted after this film. So I don't know. It started in a way that's not the best from a 2021 lens. Am I grateful that a film like The Help exists? 100%. And I think moving forward, we're always going to be looking back at films that came out decades ago and watching it and thinking, hang on, this is problematic. And I think this is going to keep evolving as we keep going. We keep getting more educated, more exposed to things. Woke. And I think that we're just going to keep wanting better. So, and again, I'm sorry to bring back Crazy Rich Asians, but I've got a very strong feling in 10 years from now, we're going to watch Crazy Rich Asians and go, that was messed up. But, for its time to have that all Asian American cast is amazing. So I think it needs to start somewhere, right? And The Help at the time was that starting point to help the careers of these women in it.
And that's an interesting point, actually. That's a really good point, Saj. I reckon, even though these movies came out not too long ago, and we're saying that, they haven't aged particularly well, that doesn't mean that I'm like, these movies just should not have existed. Because you're right, they're made in a moment in time where either it wasn't as frowned upon or whatever. It almost is like it's a look into history. I know it's only 10 years ago, but some of the movies now you might see as problematic. Like at the time, it kind of almost is a bit of like a little historical reflection of what the views and values were of the time. So, sorry.
But I think it's also, it's interesting how, especially with The Help, because when the Black Lives Matter movement happened last year, The Help was the most watched movie on Netflix.
Right, yeah.
Now, this is problematic because it was almost as if people thought, okay, if I want to learn about Black lives, let's watch a film where the white person's the savior.
So true.
Right? So I think it was a reminder of, hang on. Can we just have a look at, can we look at this with a lens of, I don't know, a woke lens, I guess, and realize that, yes, it might be a good story, but at the end of the day, the people who are marginalized in this are still the black women, and anyway.
No, that's very true. And it's actually interesting, although in saying that, it's interesting that actually I didn't know that it was the #1 movie during quarantine. That's an interesting point.
No, when Black Lives Matter. And so,
Black Lives Matter, sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm very cynical with American audiences and their consumption habits, because I think earlier this year, there was this country music artist who, sorry, I know it's a bit of a tangent, but there's this country music artist who used all these racial slurs like the N-word and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then his album, you'd think because of that, everyone would be like, oh, we're not listening to his music. His album was #1 after this for 10 weeks.
Oh wait, I've read about this.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, I've read about this artist. Right.
Morgan something, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, sorry, this is a bit of a side note, but it's just interesting people's, consumption habits when certain movements are happening. You expect them to go one way and they don't. The Help, like you said, is an interesting choice for people to watch when it's actually not really the narrative that people should be if they want to read up on stuff, which is the same with this country artist. But anyway.
I know, but I think though the difference is with the Black Lives Matter movement. I feel like social media, it forced people into educating themselves on people of color, and I think that's when The Help came into play, because people just went, if I want a film about black people, fine, I'll watch The Help.
Yeah.
I think with this, it's more of a something was said. It was not a movement, but if there was a movement around it, maybe his album may not have gone to #1, but yeah. Wow, a lot of diss for The Help. But anyway, I guess positives, at least Octavia Spencer and Viola Davis.
And we have Ma in our lives. That's why I'll take that one to the grave.
So, well, thanks, Matt. And you've been watching the film Whisperers on Ben TV.